If you're thinking about buying a camera to create content, YouTube content, before you pull out the credit card or use Venmo or whatever you're going to do to pay for it, make sure you ask these questions because I think these questions are very important to help you make a smart decision and not waste a lot of money too. By the way, my name's Kevin Colby, and I'm so glad you're here. So, the first thing I want you to ask yourself is this something you need or something you want? The reason I ask that because I see a lot of times in the comment, people say, well, I've got an iPhone, but I need to get a real camera to do my videos and things like that. If you've got a phone, you've got a camera. I mean, unless it's like a flip phone, and actually, some of those have cameras in them. Now I think about it. I think it's really important before you go too far down this rabbit hole of getting a camera to decide, is this a need or a want? Now, there's not a right or wrong answer to this. You may decide that you want one, even though you don't need one. That's what you have to decide. I personally have several cameras. Now, I've been doing this a long time, and I've probably sold more cameras than I currently have, and some of them I wish I still had. But needless to say, right now, I have a bunch of cameras. I have a Canon M6 Mark II that I'm shooting this with. I have a Canon M50 Mark II. I have a GoPro 9. I have a DJI Osmo Pocket 3. I have a webcam. What am I missing? I have an iPhone. I think that's it right now. And I may still get cameras in the future, and I may still sell gear. So I think a very important question to ask to start with is this something you need or something you want? Another question, what is my budget? This, I think, is so important. And here's why. You don't have to scroll very long on YouTube. You can search on there, what is the best camera for video or for YouTube? And you're going to get a lot of recommendations. If you don't know what your budget going in is, it's easy to ask somebody, what camera would you recommend? Well, what if I recommend a $3,000 camera that may be a phenomenal camera? And you go, well, okay, but my budget is more like 500, which is nothing wrong with that. As I'm editing this, it just dawned on me. I'm going to share some links in the description to different cameras and different categories that we're talking about. Just in case you're shopping and looking around, check out those links down below. So you need to know your budget going in and try and stay within your budget. Now, look, I don't know what your financial situation is. Gear can get expensive, even though you don't have to always use expensive gear. And I've done some videos on that if you want to see that, just to kind of prove the point that the message is more important. But I think it's important to know what your budget is, because there's a lot more sometimes than just the camera you may need. However you do your money, and if you don't really track your finances, just write down an amount that you're comfortable with, and then that will be your basis for the gear you buy, the camera you buy going forward. Another question is, what is my skill level? Now, here's why I think this is a question you should ask. There are a lot of cameras out there. I mean, just name a brand. I love Canon cameras. My first camera was a Canon, an AE1 film camera. I still have it. There's a lot of Canon cameras. There's a lot of Sony cameras. There's a lot of Panasonic, Nikon, and on and on and on. And then we can get into like the GoPros and the DJI. A lot of them are more advanced cameras. Not saying you can't learn them, but a lot of them are also made for more beginner level. Like, for example, I hear a lot of people talk about the Canon R100. Supposedly, it's a great beginner camera. But if you're a little bit more advanced, you're very comfortable with gear and things like that, then you might want a camera that has more options in the interface. You can dial it in, or you may say, hey, look, Kevin, I just want to create videos. I really don't care how the camera works. So then I would look for cameras that have a lot of auto options that will just help you create faster or easier. Hey, I want to jump in here and tell you about the sponsor of today's video, and it's Riverside. Now, what's cool about Riverside, since we're talking about cameras, you can use any camera you have with Riverside. You got a webcam? You can use it. You've got an action cam? You can use it. You can use your phone even wirelessly with Riverside. I've got a Canon M6 Mark II plugged into my computer. That's what I use with Riverside. Basically, if you can plug a camera into your computer, Riverside sees it, and you can be off and recording Just like that. If I could snap, you'd get the idea. Now, when your camera's connected to Riverside, you can also use Riverside to record or even live stream. When you're done, you can use the built-in editor in Riverside to edit your video. You can edit it by text or the timeline. And then there's a lot of other cool features like taking out pauses and ums and filler words as well. And there's a lot of other features too you really ought to check out in Riverside. And if you use my code Kevin Colby, you can save 15% off any paid plan. I put a link to Riverside down below. Check it out. And thanks, Riverside, for sponsoring the video. Another question is, what kind of content do I want to make? Like types of content. Now, this may change over time. But if you're like a run and gun, action-oriented, you're going to be outside and camping or hiking or doing extreme sports or outlander stuff, then you need to think about that with your gear, because that may determine whether it's weather sealed or how rugged it is. If you drop it off off the cliff or out of your truck or something. Are you going to be sitting more at your desk like I do? So really, I just need something mounted to my desk. Let's say you're going to live stream. Some cameras, you can literally just plug right into your computer and with a simple USB cable, and it will become a webcam. Now, some take some other hardware, like again, I'm using a Canon M6 Mark II for this, and I use a capture card from Elgato called a Camlink 4K capture card, which basically turns my really high-end camera, high-end to a degree, into a webcam. So again, what kind of content do you want to create? Because that should lead what you get. So like, for example, there's a lot of high-end cameras out there. But if you're going to be doing something more just like tutorials, where you're going to be sharing your screen and things like that, maybe you get away with a webcam. So just write out all the content that you want to make. And again, this may change at some point, but I would write out the type of content you want to start with, maybe what you want to grow into. And again, keep that in mind when you're shopping for a camera. Now, another question is, where will I be filming most of the time? And this kind of goes in conjunction with our other. If again, you're like me right now, where I think I'm going to have a desk set up, let's say, forget where, it could be in a corner of your office or a corner of a bedroom. But if you're just going to have a simple desk setup where you turn the camera on and you record, then you may not need a big camera. You may not need a high-end camera. You may need like a little webcam that literally plugs into your laptop, or maybe you're using your phone or something like that. But think about where you will be. Or do you need something where you can set up inside of a studio? Like, this is my home office studio, but I can take any of these cameras anywhere. So will you have times where you might be on the go, or you might be traveling at conferences and you want to create content while you're there? I saw somebody the other day that evidently whatever they do, they're getting ready to go on a long cruise. And so now they're thinking, well, what would I need to be able to vlog and shoot videos on the cruise? Well, if they had bought a camera that wasn't conducive to that, is that right? Conducive to that, then that might affect it. So again, think of where I will be making my videos predominantly now, because at some point you may want to add to the gear, but this is for like right now. Another question, what accessories do I need? This kind of goes back to your budget, whatever that number is. Let's say you have a budget of $500. So when you're shopping, you need to see what else you may need, because some cameras just come with the camera. They don't come with extra batteries. They don't even come with a SD card. So let's say, for example, you're going to record in camera. Like, let's just take the Osmo Pocket 3. Most of the time, it doesn't come with a little memory card, a SD card you put in there. And if it does, it's so small. So what are accessories you might need? And accessories could be lenses. So like my Canon M50 Mark II, well, it has detachable lenses. So I have a bunch of different lenses, but I also need batteries for it. If I'm going to use it as a webcam, I need something what I call a dummy battery, which just gives it power 100% of the time. But I may need some ND filters, something that you would only use outside. Microphones. Most cameras have built-in mics, and most camera built-in mics are just kind of barely okay at best. I typically don't recommend bundles. You can see them a lot on Amazon and places, and a lot of the things they bundle in there are like cheap tripods and cheap camera bags, and even SD cards that aren't big enough for what you need. And speaking of SD cards, if you plan on doing more 4K footage, you are 4K, recording in 4K, you need to think about that for your storage on your cards, because 4K takes up more footage. So it's not just about the camera, even if it's like a point and shoot where the lens retracts in and out of the body. What other accessories might you need? And think about that with your budget as well. There are a lot of places out there that you can buy new gear and used gear, so don't shy away from saving some dollars and buying used gear. Just kind of vet where you're buying it from. I would recommend Gear Focus, and I would also recommend MPB, which are places I've bought and sold to as well, and they have some great guarantees. So whatever you end up getting, just think about it through and then use it to create and share your gifts with the World Wide Web. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.